it shifts its shape to something smaller. Here's your look at the Mezco MDS Mezco Designer Series. It's Pennywise the Clown. Pennywise is everything you were ever afraid of, and now he's joining the Mezco Designer Series. Pennywise features an interchangeable head portrait depicting his deterioration after being defeated by the Losers Club, an interchangeable left pointing hand, and an interchangeable monster-like right hand are included. Pennywise comes complete with a set of 3 balloons with "Turn Back Now" written on the yellow balloon. All 3 balloons, or just the singular yellow balloon, can be held neatly in his right hand. From his fire red hair to his oversized clown shoes, Pennywise is every nightmare you've ever had. He wears a brightly colored clown suit with pom-pom detailing on the front. Before we get a closer look at this rather creepy-looking clown, we'll have a look first at the accessories that come included with MDS Pennywise. He comes with 3 balloons, though technically on the packaging, the read-up says you can either have him holding just the yellow balloon on its own, or you can have them together, which sort of says to me that the balloons, well, the blue one and the orange one, would imply that the 2 are already attached, and that the options available then to you are to either have them displayed with the Turn Back Now yellow balloon on its own, or you can have them together. Really, all 3 of the balloons, as you clearly see, can all be held independently from one another. The problem with it, though, and I'll just take, say, the blue balloon for the time being. If you take the figure, he only has really 1 stock hand for holding the balloons, and it's this one right here. If you look at the size of the hole, none of them really accommodate just him holding the balloon, 1 single balloon by himself. There doesn't seem to be a track point anywhere here where, like, 1 string, for example, can just sit in his hand. It sits okay, but then before you know it, it's going to drop right down. I feel already that they probably should have included a secondary hand with a slightly smaller hole in the top of the hand if you want to just have him holding 1 balloon. The balloons themselves, of course, have wire frames, so you can manipulate those if you want. And again, you can either have all 3 together, or despite the packaging, what the packaging says, you can have them all separate from one another. And the only one that's really different from the rest is this one right here, the yellow balloon that says Turn Back Now. I'm willing to listen to you, wise balloon. Again, it's got a wire frame. So again, you can put all 3 of them in his hand. If you put 1 at a time, though, like I said, he just barely holds it. And sometimes the weight of the balloons actually end up knocking the hand off the peg, which you just finished seeing. So we're going to go ahead and take all 3 of the balloons, just sort of bunch them up, group them together like small children in a playground. And then from there, you're just going to feed them through his hand. Something I would want to also say about the balloons is that you sort of have to get all the balloons in there and then just adjust accordingly the strings. One of the biggest problems also having for this figure is when you look at the hands, let's take the strings back out for a second. If these hands are really designed to be holding the strings, I would have actually closed up this back end of his hand. I would have made these fingers touching the palm of his actual hand so that they were closed shut. Because when you take the strings of the balloons, whether it be 1, whether it be 2, whether it be 3, they all will slip out from his fingers, just like that. They should have really closed the grip completely if this is the hand that's only designed and designated for holding the balloons. That's my only real gripe when it comes to these. Sometimes you can get the balloons properly in his hand, as you saw at the beginning of this review. In other cases, you're going to have a little bit more difficulty because the strings just slide straight out from his fingers. The other accessories he has coming included with him, speaking of hands, were we just speaking of hands? We were just speaking of hands. Remember we were talking about the balloons? 3 balloons, you could display them separately if you wanted to, even though the packaging says yellow balloon or the balloons together. Remember all that conversation we just finished having? Well, while we're still on the topic of hands, he does also come with a pointing hand. To change out the hands are actually super easy. Right now he has this gestured hand already in the socket of his forearm. To remove it though, super simple. Just pop that off the ball peg right there, and then just replace it with the pointing hand. The pegs, I feel, are almost too small because when you think you get the hand in place, if you bang it just quickly, very, very softly, the hand falls right off. And then you have him with the pointing hand. So you can have him laughing at somebody like that. Of course, you do have the figure's poseability, which we'll talk about more in a second. So he does have the pointing hand, and he does also have the monster hand. I am thrilled to see that they included the monster hand. Not really sure whether I would decide to display Pennywise with this hand, but the available options from a company to include all the other accessories like this, it gives you an option. So down the road, having this guy on display for maybe a week, you think to yourself, you know what? Today's the day. You yell outside in your backyard. Today's the day I'm going to put the monster hand on. The neighbors are thinking, oh God, that guy's yelling again. Why does he keep yelling about all the things he's doing with his figures? It does have some nice detailing done to the hands themselves. A little sloppy, I must say, on the fingernail part of things. You can see that, yeah, a little bit of the green has bled onto the fingernails. Other than that, though, not bad looking hand at all. And you only get one of these. So when it comes to switching out the hands, I want to kind of still stick to the idea that thumbsies go in, right? So you wouldn't want to put this hand on this side. So just remove the hand from the peg and just fit this hand then in place. He has that option available as well. His last accessory, moving all the other things out of the way, is the acid-burned face. You can see the difference between the two. One is such a happy-go-lucky clown. Like, this is the kind of clown you want to have over for a birthday party. This is probably not the kind of clown you'd want to have over at the birthday party. The parents would be pulling their kids away saying, never again. We're never taking our kid over to one of their birthday parties. Why would they even hire a clown that looks like that? The detailing on this face sculpt is fantastic. Love the additional airbrushing of purple that they've incorporated to the side of the face, while this one seems a little more cleaner, except for the spooky looking eyes. This is the defaulted head sculpt, which of course we will want to look at first and foremost. A nice smiling looking Pennywise. What harm could he do? Oh right, he's got the monster hand. That might be an indicator of what he's capable of doing. The figure feels heavy, something more I'll talk about in a second, but it's a good looking head sculpt. Painted very cleanly, especially the outlined areas of the lips. The teeth look gnarly. Off-white as well. I can't even say that's off-white. That's closer to being a cream color. Nice looking head sculpt though, but to change it off, to change this face to this face here, luckily you don't have to remove the head. Instead, all you have to do is just take the face and you're literally just prying the face off of his head. You'll see there's slots on either side that corresponds with the pegs on either side. And that just fits over top like that. But that's not, of course, the face that we're going to go with. We're going to go with this head sculpt, which as you can see has some additional darker coloring at the bottom of the mouth area. And it just lines it up. Well, we want to line it up into those slots and just push the face in. And you have this head sculpt as an alternative. This works so well then with the monster hand to the side. And of course, while still sticking with the idea of the pointing hand, just wish these hands would stay better in place. Get those hands back in there. Yeah, that is definitely a very fun looking and scary looking Pennywise that you can put on display. Looking at the rest of the details on the figure, excluding of the head, of course, which we already had a look at one last time. You guys can see nice up close and personal. It seems like I may have had just a little bit of paint find its way to the front tooth here. You could also say that that's just blood. He's been gnawing away at some small child, and that's, oh, do I have something in my teeth? Oh, sorry, that's intestine. Nice, very nice detailing on the side of his face. Even like the nose. Let's just bring the other faceplate back in so you can see once again. The nose they have also sculpted to reflect the burning that he has on the side of his face. Super, super creepy. Well, we're certainly, again, I want to look at the rest of the features on the face, but the body, but let's just spin it one last time so you can see the back of his head. His head, the back of his head, looks like those Play-Doh barber shops where you press down the pedal and all the Play-Doh comes out before you start trimming it, of course. All the layers upon layers of Play-Doh. No, it's not Play-Doh. It's not Play-Doh. It's plastic, but it kind of does look a little bit like Play-Doh, doesn't it? While we're looking at the back of him, we can certainly focus our efforts onto the actual costume. The ruffled collar along the top, painted nicely there in the white. And then you've got the striping colors of the purple and the blue with dividing colors of a lighter purple in there as well. That's nicely painted. And the pom-poms down the front of his body. He does, of course, have rather large clown shoes. It actually works to his benefit that he does have feet so large like this, because it does balance what I feel to be a very heavy figure. Having already collected MDS figures in the past, Pennywise feels a lot heavier than those ones before. I think a lot of the plastic, surprisingly enough, is actually in the head. While the body feels heavy, I feel more like it's his noodle, it's his noggin here that seems to make up the majority of the figure's weight. Tackling the posability on Pennywise, his head normally, in best case scenario, would be able to rotate all the way around. There's a lot of stuff happening in the way here. You want to get to your destination, but there's all these roadblocks. Roadblocks being the size of his chin and the size of his hair really do prevent the figure's head from rotating all the way around. You can try, but I feel like it's only going to cause scraping of the bottom of the chin and scraping of the bottom of the hair, not to mention what damage it's going to do to the top of his ruffled collar. So we're just going to kind of stick to the idea that the head only goes this way, it goes this way, and then you can hinge the head up and hinge the head down. Oh, and also, yes, you can put in a creepy pose, having it slightly angled off to the side like this as well. As for the arms hinge out. That's the case actually on both arms. Of course, you can rotate those arms forward, you can rotate them back. He does also have a swivel on the wrist, or swivel on the elbow. So actually it works well because something like this allows the figure to kind of pull off a straight arm and also a bent arm by only relying on a swivel. So instead of actually having a hinge right here, because it swivels, it can either go straight down or just rotate it up, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a bent elbow. The stripes, unfortunately, though, then start alternating themselves when you bend the arm or swivel the arm like this, but at least it gives you an effective route of giving articulation, and that works the same way on this arm as well. Just rotate that up. And it can kind of give him bent elbows, even though he technically doesn't have bent elbows. All the rest of the figure from here to here is all just molded plastic. You can't move it or anything like that. As for the feet hinge or swivel back and forth. They seem to hinge up and down a little bit too, which makes me believe that they're pegged in by a ball peg rather than actually just pegged in place. And like I said, because of the size of his feet like this, it does give a lot more stability to what I feel is one of the heavier MDS figures that we've gotten from Mezco Toys. I really like this one a lot. I'm not really sure which one I decide to display him with. Part of me kind of wants to go with this one just as a regular stock smiling Pennywise. But the option is certainly available there as well if you want a creepier looking Pennywise. And because the faces are so simple to swap out, I don't know why I'm saying it with such exclamation, but because the faces are so simple to swap, you don't have to worry about even popping the head off the shoulders to do it. Quite the nice and quite the heavy Pennywise. He might actually be one of the heaviest MDS figures I've looked at here on this channel. And feel free to go back and watch my previous reviews of the other MDS figures that Mezco Toys have put out. I like the look of Pennywise with two swappable faceplates, and I'm still not sure which one I'm going to settle with when it comes to displaying him on the shelf. Probably still going to go with the happier Pennywise, which then comes to the one concern, very small criticism I could make about the figure. Like the head sculpt, like the paint, like the swappable faceplates, that they're not super complicated. I don't have to take the head off in order to gain access to the faceplate. My only concern is the balloons. And no, that's not the reason why he's not being displayed with the balloons here in final looks, but the balloons just have a difficulty staying in his hands. He has one hand for the job. You know that saying, you had one job? That hand had one job, and it's to hold the balloons. Sometimes you can get the balloons properly in his hand, but the key, I think, is to having all three balloons. Even though you could really have one, two, or even all three balloons in his hands, it seems to hold in his grip a lot better if you use all three. The problem is that the fingers aren't closed to the palm. They've left the slot as almost as if he's supposed to be using those hands, or that specific hand, for something else, like holding ice cream, holding the hand of some unsuspecting child. But no, you have one job hand, and that's to hold those balloons. I feel like those fingers should have been just molded right to his palm. Don't even leave that open slot, because it doesn't serve any purpose. It does serve one purpose, and that's where the strings, that's where the balloons can make their escape. Like the Losers Club. They just slip out. Other than that, though, I really, really am happy with the way that MDS Pennywise turned out. I hope, because I don't think I've been following enough as these MDS have been released. I don't think we have gotten ourselves yet as Bill Skarsgård Pennywise. If it hasn't yet happened, Mezco Toyz, please make it happen. Bill Skarsgård, Pennywise. But what do you guys think of the mini-series Pennywise, the MDS Mezco designer series of the figure? Let me know whether you've picked the figure up for yourself or just based on this review. Is this a figure you'd like to pick up and have to your collection, add to your collection? And hey now, if you are new to this channel, enjoying all the content you're seeing, you can do one thing to better your cause. Technically two things, but the greater one, the one that makes the most impact in your life, is to hit that subscribe button down below. You can also turn on the bell notification as your way of getting those friendly reminders of when new videos are going to be popping up. And you can also keep your clownish peepers peeled to this channel, because there will be, in fact, more Mezco reviews lined up and coming your way. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.